Well, thank you all for coming today. This has been a wonderful project, and I'm looking forward to what the students present. We were delighted in January when we learned that the University of Arkansas at Little Rock Master of Public Administration Program's Capstone class had selected the Interdistrict Waste Tire Program for their Capstone project. We're looking forward to their recommendations, their observations, their comparisons, and this is going to be an interesting report, and we have not seen it, so we're very excited. I'd like to introduce our speakers, but before I do, I'd like to mention a quote that I read in a newsletter by Teresa Marks, the director of the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. She said, "We all want the same thing: clean air, clean water, a healthy community, economic development, trust, and respect." This program exists to protect the public health and to protect the environment. And I'm hopeful that what these gentlemen are presenting today is going to help us do that in a more effective way. I'd like to introduce Dr. Roby Robertson of the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, Mr. Bryan Day, Assistant City Manager for Little Rock, Arkansas, who also worked to direct the students, Lane Bailey, and Geoffrey Shiloh. With that, Dr. Robertson.
Thank you. We will be passing out the report. But we follow a good report rule, which is if we gave you the report first, you'd be flipping through it and not listening to the talk. So we always give the report after they make the presentation, so you'll have a sense of this. Our Capstone project in the Masters of Public Administration program is basically we work with governmental groups and others to find a project that can work on a semester basis, and that's the little bit of artificiality to it. But the idea is that our students operate as a kind of consulting crew to the operation and to the folks involved. We've been very, very happy with this year's project. Stacy is like a right hand, I know, to most of you, but she's been a right hand to most of us, as we'd say, well, this makes sense. And you go, well, that makes sense. But, and so we talk about those kinds of issues. And so it's really important to understand that context. The students that are presenting today will be stepping up. That there's a third member of the group, Brent Dycus, who's been involved in the project from the get-go. But Brent is the school board president in Mayflower. So needless to say, Brent's a little buried right now in more ways than one, and he really regrets that he can't be here today as part of the presentation, but he's been very much part of the project. In fact, Elizabeth, I know, talked to you a great deal on the project, and of course we've consulted with many of you and others in involvement. So I don't want to take any more time. I'll let our two presenters take the time. Then at the end they'll have some questions. You have plenty of time for questions. As we start the questions, we then pass out the report so that you have a good sense of what's involved in terms of the project. So with that, Geoffrey, you're up.
Good morning again. My name is Geoffrey Shiloh, and along with my colleague Lane Bailey, we'll be presenting our Capstone project. And like Dr. Roby said, our Capstone project with the Interdistrict Tire Program, and the presentation will be presenting a recommendation for the tire program to help move waste tires from landfills and dumping to more greener products and such as rubberized asphalt and other civil engineering projects. What is a waste tire? I know most of you all may be familiar with the subject, so some of the information we will present today may be familiar, but like I said, the presentation about presenting recommendations to help you all move forward. But a waste tire is any tire that's not presented. It's not reusable for its original purpose. And you may also hear us use the term scrap tire, but we kind of use those interchangeably. But within the state of Arkansas, the tire program began in 1991 with the passing of the Act 749. But waste tire is not only a problem within the state of Arkansas, it's a problem across the country. And waste tires pose two major problems. Unregulated dumping and landfill pose a great breeding ground for disease-carrying insects, and also it poses a fire hazard. Tire fires can burn a lot longer than regular fires, and they produce various amount of toxins. Like I mentioned earlier, we work with the Interdistrict Tire Waste Program, as you see the end district right in the middle. Within the state also there are 9 other districts, and within each district are counties or under districts. So just as a sideline recommendation, we kind of recommend that the end district may want to change its name. Okay, you see the under waste districts are named out of their geographic locations, like the upper southwest or the Ozark Mountains, and the inner district is, well, they are essentially inner districts. So for future board members and just for the general public, it may be just a good idea to rename it to the central inner district or the central also inner district to kind of help with the visual representation of it. But one thing about the inner district, the program is administered through the Pulaski County Administrative Office, and that's why the office is in Pulaski County. And the inner district, along with Davis Rubber, have a partnership where they together they process about 700,000 tires a year. The state is comprised of 10 districts all together. And like I said in my first slide, the recommendation that we present later on is about moving tires from being dumped and landfill to more green products down what we would call the continuum, from one end being dumped and to on the other end being fully recycled products. And you can see within the state also most districts use tires for fuel, what we would call TDF, and some districts within the state still landfill or monofill, which is represented by the land disposal. We don't have the exact numbers on the PowerPoint, but they're all in the report. But you can see a consensus that moves towards crumb rubber, and where nobody in the state is doing rubberized asphalt or under civil engineering projects right now. But you can see a consensus within the state and across the country that moving down the continuum is where we all want to be. And you see at the bottom is unregulated dumping. And dumping could be just your average Joe who throw his tire in the backyard or use the tire to help burn his fall leaves. You know, he may not do it hazardly, but maybe he don't know. Maybe he or she don't know that dumping tires is illegal. The landfill, just most organizations, the landfill, they cut the tires so they can put it within the landfill. But tires are bigger than most waste you put in a landfill, and so they take up a lot of room. And over time, the tire can actually kind of creep up in the landfill. And monofill is a step further, just because the tire that I put on monofill, they have a tension later on to kind of re-excavate them and use it for recycling products. TDF, like I mentioned before, tires are a good burning source, and they can be used for fuel because they have high BTUs, but they also produce a lot of toxins that can be hazardous to the environment. So the tire being used kind of as a recycled product, but it's still not good for the environment. And move up with most layered products. One thing that we research within the state and across the country, use mulch as a landscaping tool, kind of in place for wood mulch. And so you may see that as some schools in their playgrounds or football fields and some military training facilities. Because to be honest, I'm pretty sure it's a lot safer to follow on some crumb rubber than a ground or a regular turf field. And at the top, the green area, we have the rubberized asphalt and other civil application. And across the country, such as Arizona and Kentucky, states are using rubberized asphalt on their interstates and county roads. And rubberized asphalt increases stopping distance, and it's also help in wet conditions, and it lasts longer over time. And civil application can be anything from roof shingles to road sound dampeners on the side of the highway. So that could be multiple things. But like I said earlier, the recommendation that we present in the presentation and in our report is all about move up this continuum. So we will move on to our comparative study, and we'll have a hand off to Lane.
Thanks, Geoffrey. We're going to hop right into the comparative studies. We're going to hit the highlights that we found. There are a lot more details in the report that we'll be passing out in a minute. Alabama is on the ball. They invest heavily in research and development of rubber products and in marketing those products. And you will see in the report, they've got the results to show for it. They have moved along the continuum very nicely. Alabama also has a very vigorous enforcement program. They require landowners to clean up scrap tire piles. And they've been pretty successful at it too. Kentucky. One thing we liked about Kentucky particularly is that they have a waste tire working group. It consists of county mayors or county judges, mayors, private sector folks, and state level employees, and they actually report ways to move along this continuum to the governor's cabinet on a regular basis. We like that model. Tennessee was hard to study. Tennessee passed a new law last year, 2013, revamping the entire program. So a lot of the stuff they're doing is new. We're still going to watch it. But one thing we like they did is they contracted with a private sector company to put all of the tire manifest reporting online. So all the counties can upload all the data online. It's a very good program. I dug into it a little bit online. It works very well, and we're going to speak about that a little bit more. An interesting thing Tennessee does, just as a side note, everything in Tennessee is based on counties, but these counties, anytime they put a tire in a landfill, they have to report how many tires they put in that landfill and provide financial justification for why they put it in a landfill, as opposed to moving it along to a processing facility. So, something to keep in mind. Mississippi, believe it or not, has the lowest percentage of tires going into landfills than any of the states we studied. So they're doing a very good job. However, they have the highest number of tires that they're using for fuel. They're burning more tires than any other state. So they seem to have moved along the continuum and then stopped with tire-derived fuel. Another thing about Mississippi that we found, they're very generous when it comes to collecting tires. Citizens and even small businesses can bring up to 10 tires a week to collection centers, no fee. So it's quite a bit more generous than Arkansas. So how does Arkansas compare? Well, we are landfilling a lot of tires. So when you compare it with these other states that were in our study, Arkansas is still landfilling many more tires than the other states. However, the data indicate that Arkansas, to a certain extent, not completely, but to a certain extent, Arkansas seems to be leapfrogging from landfilling straight to creating rubber products, and not just doing what Mississippi has done and taking all their tires and burning them for fuel. So that's a good indication. And that's where we want to see Arkansas go along the continuum. So that brings us to our recommendations. We've got short-term, medium-term, long-term recommendations. Short-term, data management. Data management is difficult. We know your frustration. Okay, you're dealing with 700,000 tires a year. That is a lot of data to collect, to maintain, and to store. All right. Microsoft Excel, we have to say this, Microsoft Excel is not a database. There are better databases out there. We've already moved forward a little bit, but we like what Tennessee is doing with this online tire manifest reporting system. And we show you a little bit more about that. We also recommend other steps you can take to give you more security on your data and give you, as you're working with it, more confidence in the data that you're working with. Missing data can result in missing revenue. So we want to put a lot of effort onto that. Next is collaborative efforts. We've heard from everybody. This district, the other districts we interviewed, and ADEQ, everybody wants to collaborate more between the districts. Let's see what others are doing. Let's share our ideas. Let's cooperate. Well, the Kentucky Waste Tire Group is a great model to follow. All right, they got people from private sector, from city mayors, county judges, and they report all the way up to the governor's cabinet. We show some steps on how to get there. Public awareness. your 2013 billboard campaign was great. Some of those billboards are still up. You can still see one down on University Avenue. It tells people tire dumping is illegal. People need to know that. And you've done a great start with the billboard campaign. We show you some steps to keep moving along and reach more people in the district. Obviously, we focus a lot on social media. It's very inexpensive and you can reach a lot of people. It's also very interactive. You're not just pushing information out, you can receive information when you use social media. So we show you how we provide some recommendations there on public awareness, but we do recommend you continue with those campaigns. And enforcement. Enforcement is a tricky issue. You have to tread carefully. Pardon the pun. With enforcement can be good. You can raise revenue with fines. You can also change people's bad behavior, and those are good things. Enforcement can also send people underground, get them operating in the dark of night. And you can also get yourself mixed up in legal entanglements that just don't make enforcement worth it. Okay, Alabama has showed us some good ways to enforce without causing these problems. The EPA also has some really good guidelines. Keep the fines low, that sort of thing. You don't want to cause bankruptcies, or you don't want to cause appeals, but you can raise money and change behavior if you do enforcement right. We write a lot about that in our paper. All right. Next is some rather low-hanging fruit. We know that the district accepts used tires, from city and county jurisdictions on maintenance vehicles and that sort of thing, and you accept them without charging a fee. The board, at least in our observations, seem to be okay with stopping that practice, and let's go ahead and collect the fees from these cities and counties. We recommend you begin that immediately. It's not going to be a lot of money, but it's an immediate result. And so we say start collecting. So now medium-term recommendations. Used tire dealers. They operate under the radar. Okay, we've heard a lot about that from this district and from the other districts. Nobody knows what these used dealers are doing. They're not regulated. One thing that we found, North Little Rock is considering creating a special business license that used tire dealers will have to obtain in order to operate. And they will have certain reporting requirements of the tires they move through, the quality of those tires, other things. That's still in progress. I'm not putting North Little Rock on the hook because they're considering it. But we want to watch what they do, because we think that might be a good way to get these used tire dealers out from under the radar. Watch what they do. Who knows, there might be a new revenue stream there. And now, approval of moving intra-district funds. This is an issue that the board has talked a lot about. They want some flexibility on what they do with the funds from county to county. ADEQ is rightly invested in standardization and uniformity across all districts. And we understand that, and that is very important to maintain. So we want the board and the department to work together strategically to find a way to get where we need to be as far as moving funds around in a way that's mutually acceptable to all parties. And finally, on the medium term recommendations, we have marketing products, rubber products. Davis Tire Company, you're great. You've got some great products. Alabama and Kentucky are leaders in marketing products that organizations like yours create. All right, the mulch that you put on playgrounds that Geoffrey mentioned, and other let's say engineering applications. The district should not just let the private sector do all the marketing. It would be mutually beneficial to the private company and to the district to increase your marketing efforts for these products. All right, and we discussed that in more detail in the report. Long-term recommendations, rubberized asphalt. That is at the top of the continuum. That's the greenest. That's where we want to get. All right, and folks, it is economically doable. All right, it wasn't always this way. 15 years ago, it didn't prove out economically. Now it does. All right, your roads last longer. All right, county judges gotta love that. They spend a lot of money on repaving. All right, your roads last longer. It's safer. Tires, there's faster stopping time. The lower road noise. Rubberized asphalt is where we want to get, but we put it under long term because it's going to take a lot of work, and that work has to begin with the board. You're going to have to create partnerships. Davis Tire is going to have to be able to refine tires a little bit more finely. It's going to be, you're going to have to deal with judges, you're going to have to get partnerships, you've got to get a plan to get us to that next level. But it can be done, the economics prove out. And finally, legislative activity. We're not here to suggest you go change all the laws by any means. But should you choose to want some legislative activity that will give you more enforcement authority or change funding formulas, that sort of thing, we lay out steps on what you have to do about lobbying, building advocacy groups, finding partnerships, and how to deal with the General Assembly. So our legislative activity is our final long-term recommendation, and we provide, again, a lot more information for you in the report that you will be receiving in a moment. So in conclusion, the Inter-District is doing a great job. We like what you're doing. You're moving along the continuum. You're getting tires out of the ground and into the processing facilities. All right, that's good. We love the partnership with Davis Tire Company. That's a strong partnership. It's one of the best we've witnessed in all of our comparative studies. We want to continue that. Doing a great job. All right, but I've got to say, Geoffrey and I want to get across, Judge, we wrote this paper. The audience was the oversight board. All right, all of these recommendations require the investment from the board to move this process forward, to innovate, to move along the continuum. You can't just pass this paper out to the staff and say, go forth and implement it. You've got to be invested in there, and it's got to be a group effort with strong strategic leadership from the board.